Esteemed viewer, welcome to Njinji Media TV, a station that is culture-driven and grassroots-oriented. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Remember also to subscribe to the channel by clicking on the bell icon for notification. I am John Paul Ane. Senator Abaribe's speech in Mississippi USA on Ndigbo, Kanu, Biafra and Nigeria. What I will say here today may come as a surprise to many of you. For those that I will rub the wrong way, I apologize in advance. However, Ndigbo si na ọnwụ onye nke mmadụ na awụ ya ahụ na apata ụkwụ. If I fail to say the truth about the existential challenges that we face today in our country, Nigeria, and how we believe we should face them, then I would not be true to myself and to you who sent me to represent you in the red chamber from the past to today. 1970. We can situate our position today following the end of the Civil War in 1970. Igbos in 1970 were impoverished, having lost an estimated 3 million Igbo souls in the war, with a ruined and destroyed landscape and infrastructure. Every Igbo man and woman with savings in the banks before the outbreak of hostilities were pauperized, as the military government decreed that one would only get 20 pounds, notwithstanding the amount you had. The indigenization decree was passed in 1972 and no Igbo could participate since all had been reduced to penury. 2017. Today, the Igbo have the largest pool of educated Nigerians. In 2007, Imo State had more subscribers to the JAMB UTME examinations than the 19 northern states put together. In 2017, 56% of NYSC members are from the Southeast. Our feat in education means that we now have the army to win the war of competition in a market-driven economy. Since 1999, the Southeast states have been the best in all exams. The largest group of direct domestic investors in Nigeria are from the Southeast. Igbo investments in property in Abuja alone probably has more than any other ethnic group. We are the most traveled in Nigeria. In all parts of Nigeria, after the indigenous population, Igbos are the next largest group. We are the largest propertied class of all ethnic groups in Nigeria, and despite all the confusion, we have grown the most economically since the inception of the current democracy in Nigeria. We have the richest and the largest pool of Nigeria diaspora population. Taking an example of Lagos State, Ndigbo form a large proportion of the economy of the state. We created the following from nothing: Computer Village in Ikeja, Ladekbo Spare Parts Market, Alaba Electronics Market, Balogu International Market, Balogu Trade Fair International Market, Aspamda Market in Festac, Orile Market for house fittings and appliances, etc. All second-hand clothing markets in Lagos, about 4 markets. The combined turnover daily of these markets run into billions. Lagos State benefits by collecting taxes, and now its economy contributes 56% of all VAT collected in Nigeria. Above scenario is replicated in most big cities in Nigeria. Go to Kano, Port Harcourt, Benin City, Kaduna, Sokoto, not to talk of Abuja. Ndigbo are very large players in the economy of all parts of Nigeria. I will return to this. The allure of Biafra. So the question is, Given all the advantages that we as Ndigbo have in Nigeria, why the clamor by our youths and others for a separate state of Biafra? The present agitation in the southeast for a sovereign state of Biafra seems very tempting under the prevailing circumstance, given the manifest sectional approach to governance at the center. To some, especially the youth and the disadvantaged, it is the way to go, and when viewed critically, you cannot help but to agree with the agitators. Of a truth, there is an obvious feeling of alienation within the Nigerian state today. But has this always been the case? Apart from the civil war and the pernicious policies of the military regimes, we have not fared badly during civil war until presently. Given that following the civil war, there seemed to have been a glass ceiling in certain professions in Nigeria where it looked as if Igbo should not aspire to. In the police, military, etc. But we can posit this as the lingering effects of the war, where the victor in a war finds it very difficult to fully integrate the other part they fought with into all areas. In the US, for example, I understand that it took a very long time for someone from the southern part of the US, several decades after the Civil War, which they lost, to break the stranglehold of the North by the presidency of the US. Correct me if I'm wrong. But come to think of it, Dr. Alex Ekweme became the vice president of Nigeria barely 9 years after the Civil War. The glass ceiling was on its way to being broken. The military interregnum from 1993, led by the same Muhammad Buhari, put a hold on this. In the US, Germany, Japan, and other climes, deliberate policies were used by governments to build stronger ties among groups and opposing tendencies. This helped to forge a bond within their nations. Nigeria seemed to think that a policy of being neglect will resolve our problems. Of course, it didn't, and that's why we are seeing a resurgence of separatist agitation going on all over the country. Fast forward to the civil rule era starting from 1999. Nobody could accuse presidents Obasanjo, late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, or Goodluck Ebele Jonathan of what seemed like sectionalism as a state policy. A look at the pattern of appointments by President Obasanjo envisaged the fact of an all-inclusive government from all parts of the country, same as President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan took it a step further by appointing the first Igbo Chief of Army Staff, first Igbo Secretary to the federal government, coordinating minister for the economy, etc. In fact, one of the criticisms we face today in Nigeria is to explain why should this agitation for separation be under President Buhari when it was not done under the previous administration. However, that criticism is not true. Recall that under President Obasanjo and Yar'Adua, they were Mazob, which was managed much better than today. However, you will recall that when this government came into place, President Buhari went to the US, where he made a most unfortunate statement that was widely condemned at that time. He reportedly said that he doesn't need to bother about the 5% that didn't vote for him, but will rather concern himself with the 97% that voted for him. I heard at that time the statement was made, raised concern that such declaration from an elected president sounds discriminatory discriminatory, and may create the impression that our elected President Buhari is sending a message to those who didn't vote for him that he will be partial in his decision-making. Unfortunately, it seems also that the people who are in and around the president didn't advise him properly. They left him to make appointments and take decisions that gave the impression that there are some parts of the country that are not supposed to be part of Nigeria. Little wonder that our youths, feeling left out and not having anything to give them hope in Nigeria, started believing that a separate country, Nigeria, is supposed to be for inclusion, for making sure that everyone makes his or her input into its affairs, allowing such fairness and equity to prevail in a plural society like ours will make us a bigger and better nation. Today, that is not the case. Either as a deliberate act, as it seems, or a willful omission geared towards achieving a predetermined goal, Ndigbo have been pushed to the fringes of the Nigerian Union in so many ways by the present government. The unfortunate scenario is enough for one to ask the hypothetical question: why am I here? What alternatives? As much as the music of separatism stirs the soul, one must ask the question: is relapsing into a sovereign state of Biafra the optimum option, or is it a restructuring of the state such that all the federating units would have greater autonomy in the mode of a near quasi-self-determination the better option? When these two options are posed, a sovereign state of Biafra or restructured Nigeria, the position of most Nigerians as of today is for the latter. Apart from the problem of even determining the boundaries of the state of Biafra and the multifarious and multifaceted problems a simplistic solution such as Biafra poses, perhaps it makes more sense for those who have tasted war to be a little more discerning when matters affecting their race comes up in Nigeria. Nigerians have been known to come together to use the Igbo head to break coconuts. Apologies to late Abiola. Despite the problems that befell the Yoruba race following the annulment of the June 12, 1993 elections, they didn't seek to break out of Nigeria. Despite some of them calling for an Oduduwa country, they simply used the sympathies of other Nigerians to create an economic haven for themselves, which has led to massive relocation of industries by all Nigerians to Lagos and Ogun State. They also got the presidency of Nigeria. Our brothers from the Niger Delta have not sought to go away either. They also got the presidency of Nigeria. However, we seem to be in the unfortunate position of seeming to drag the Niger Delta into a Biafra unwanted by them. The agitation for Biafra and how it was being prosecuted by IPOB has rather elicited hate and disdain for our people from other ethnic groups, notwithstanding that they may have been nursing such tendencies. The agitation as championed by IPOB somehow gave muzzle to traditional trailblazers of Ndigbo to spew out hate and envious vituperations. This was exemplified by the October 1st quick notice given to the Igbos to leave the north by the so-called Arewa youths, which persons are yet to be arrested for hate speech and breaching the law. They claimed to be responding to our own hate speeches, etc. Indeed, other people seem to want to see us fall into the trap for them to use us to solve their own problems with Nigeria. That notwithstanding, we as political leaders from the Southeast were unequivocal in asserting that the rights of Ndigbo to peaceful and democratic engagements must be respected. On this score, we made it clear that no amount of threat will cow Ndigbo from consistently demanding for an equitable, fair and just society within the Nigerian state. We also cautioned our youths on their vituperative calls and employed the Igbo concept of buruzo chuo ufu tutu atawokokota. This, of course, was misunderstood by other Nigerians as support rather than constructive engagement. Why not Biafra? We believe that the best way to go, given our society today, is to look before we leap. We must not push to abandon our huge contribution to the Nigerian state. As we pointed out in the beginning of this paper, Ndigbo have been the single ethnic group that have welded the country Nigeria together, giving a way of life as sojourners everywhere in Nigeria, West Africa, Africa, and the whole world. I dare say that we make up to 50% or more of Nigerians in the US. The question is, why would we look to confine ourselves to a small landlocked entity when we have the whole of Nigeria to covet? I have deliberately left out of this discussion the practical impossibility of even getting our brothers from the Niger Delta to go with us in this quest, not to talk of the Idoma or the Kogi that we assist, that we insist are part of us. One thing seems to elude our people when these questions are posed. We look at the determination of the present government to treat us dismissively and feel that it is well-nigh an impossible task to get our wish for a just society. But we fail to look at the historical evidence before us. When the 97% versus 5% controversy erupted, I told our people that my people, the Ngwa, says that governments come and go. PDP government lost election and quit the stage for this APC government. Who says they cannot also lose? Why are we then acting as if it's the end of the world? The maximum any government can stay is 2 terms, totally 8 years. Restructuring is an idea whose time has come and it will happen. Biafra should be a last option only after every other avenue to realize a restructured Nigeria where every component part is allowed a measure of autonomy and self-determination fails. Let me start here. That if the dominant views in Nigeria is for restructuring, then that should be the minimum that Ndigbo should demand, so that every component part of this country can substantially harness its resources and develop at its own pace. Do not forget that the breached Aburi Accord was about restructuring, and today this call has garnered overwhelming momentum even from quarters that hitherto opposed it. Just recently, former President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and lately Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and a host of others, the aim was to stop bloodshed and waste of human lives. We've lost enough from the civil war. Those egging our youths on from here do not seem to appreciate this fact. Most distressing is the labeling of those who disagree with their positions as cowards, saboteurs, Hausa slaves, etc. This tends to discourage those who genuinely strive to lead our people through a very distressing period in our history as a nation. Nnamdi, as president of Ohaneze Ndigbo, has been vilified for taking a stand for restructuring in Nigeria for Ndigbo, a position agreed by all of us in the earlier summit I referenced. Governors come in for bashing every day. As for us legislators, we have been called all sorts of names, such as legislators, etc. Yet, when it came to taking a stand at ground zero to bail Kanu, to reject the federal government ascribing terrorism to IPOB, we are the people doing so, and we never hesitated to say that agitation in every clime is constitutional. We take the bullets from other ethnic groups and the government for standing firm and demanding that Nigerians should be left to talk to each other about the best way forward without preconditions. We would use this opportunity to plead with our internet warriors who stay here in their comfort zone that our Igbo people says, "Ma ọkpara nzuzu anwụghị, ọkpara maizu agaghị ebichi ezi." Some final thoughts. Why are we not investing at home? Lack of infrastructure. Should we continue to blame the federal government for the dilapidated infrastructures in Ala-Igbo? What of our home governments in Igbo states? Sam Mbakwe of the blessed memory did not wait for the federal government before undertaking massive rebuilding of old Imo State. We think that we've not given our best to our people with the little we got. Insecurity. Nowhere have we hurt ourselves and investment in Ala-Igbo than in the insecurity pervading all parts of our homeland. Of course, the latest imbroglio in Abia, especially in Aba and Umuahia, has worsened the matters. We run the risk of undoing all the efforts made in promoting Made in Aba that we had embarked on as a catalyst for growth in Ala-Igbo. Industries have relocated from Ala-Igbo to other parts of Nigeria, especially Lagos and Ogun states, because of very serious insecurity such as kidnapping and armed robbery faced by those who invest at home. We cannot be looking for investors and yet make our place not conducive for investment. Unemployment is the single biggest problem we have in Ala-Igbo today. Before this time, due to our domestic investments and industry, this was not a very big problem. But due to this investment going on today in Ala-Igbo, we are faced with an existential problem in our hand. Diaspora Igbos have to assist us to also invest at home despite the problems and reduce the unemployment in Ala-Igbo. Once we get Ala-Igbo right, the frustrations that fuel the agitation in Ala-Igbo will be dampened. What we have playing out in the world today is a knowledge economy. Oil is going out of fashion. As I pointed out earlier, we are poised through our educational exploits in Nigeria to dominate the economy of tomorrow. Why would we turn a blind eye to this emerging scenario? In ending, let me quote what the great son of Igbo land, the great Zik of Africa, said about himself. Despite the mythic heights to which he has raised, Azikiwe was nothing if not pragmatic, a realist, always conscious of his limits, and ever eager to extract all that was possible from that limited horizon. Thanks for being there. Njenje Media TV.